Okay, so this is going to be the second exercise, which is also, gosh, just super valuable. This is a book by George Bridgman, and it's called Constructive Anatomy. And basically, this is kind of the person that originated the practice of life drawing and drawing from schema and coming up with, the plans of proportions like the circle, etc. So you can see in this book that he developed schema that just relates to facial proportions, just so that you can practice them. Now it's pretty complex, right? So he has this little stack of cubes, and then he's able to adapt them into a stack of heads and sort of think about them from any direction. So I want you to do this exercise, and I'll leave this for reference, so that so one of the approaches to this would just be to copy this as closely as possible, right? And you'll see that it fits right in with everything we've been doing of constructing schema and then finding the center and then locating it. So just copying this drawing, I'll give you these pages on Blackboard, is totally fine. But also, just extending your compound schema concept and trying to adapt it into a face is really powerful, I think, too. So even if you just, and all this is about trying to locate the skill, trying to keep it in your hands, trying to have something accessible to you. So if we bring all this stuff together, we have the line of sight is here, right? So the top surface of a cube, and maybe we'll have a vanishing point too, just for fun, right? But not too big of one. This is just a little notation to help us. So the top surface of a cube close to the line of sight, and the vanishing point would be pretty closed, right? Cool. Now I'm not going to vanish too hard because I don't want to deal with that. So, but I will vanish a little, right? Which means that maybe this is incorrect. Maybe the real vanishing point is somewhere else. But I don't care, because I don't want to do a hardcore ruler engineer schema, right? All right, now I'm keeping this surface straight, and I'm doing like basically an upright box, and I'm just drawing with the sense that the box on the bottom will be more open, which it is. Okay, so now within this, I'm going to try to draw with a sense of this enclosing a face, right? And also the sense from the vanishing point that I'm looking down on it, right? So I have these same things, right? But instead of drawing, so I can work in the same way. I can say like, this is my circle, this is the case of the skull, but it's not two-dimensional, right? It's three-dimensional. So I can sort of, and I hope this doesn't get too heavy here. All right, cool. So if I'm starting with a sphere, right, then I'm starting here. But the sphere has to, and if I define the center here of this plane, it's here, right? See what I mean? Already this has helped me a great deal, because it's shown me that I can see the top of the sphere and the side of the sphere, right? So I know exactly what I'm drawing. Now we said the eyes are in the middle of the sphere, but remember, that's in the middle of it straight on. So there's that one surface of the sphere that I'm talking about. Since we're looking at the top of the head, we're going to see more. It's going to appear to be lower. And remember, this is curved, right? Because we're looking down on a sphere. So it's exactly what we've been doing in class this whole time, right? Now we have kind of that first, the nose, and let's just treat it as a block, right? The length of that nose. And then we have kind of that sense of glasses. I'm going to try to be really light so I don't overwhelm it. Glasses, and then when we connect that diagonal, we have a place for the cheekbones, right? Now we have, we can finish it. And the jaw will be something like this. And we also have a sense of how the jaw connects to the side, right? But on this side, we won't see the jaw as much. And we still have our proportion with the mouth where it's in, we know it's like towards the upper part, so we have room for the chin. Right, cool. Now all this stuff, because we know we're looking down on it, we know that we have to look down on the nose, whatever it is, right? We know that, since we're looking down on it, then maybe the upper lip will have a little more overhang, right? Cool. So already we have a sense of, and because we're looking down on it, see this curve? So we know the ears line up with the nose. So, but if we follow this curve and do it precisely, then that means the ears will be up a little bit, right? Okay. So I got a little bit too much line on there, but you get the idea, right? Let me try another one where let's say it's off alignment kind of. It's like this, and I'll try to draw a lot lighter. Actually, let me try with pencil. So let's say it's kind of off alignment. We're still going to consider the eye line and the vanishing point. So I'm going to vanish a little. This is what I mean by intuitive perspective, right? I know I'm going to squeeze these lines towards each other, but I'm just not going to care that much. I'm not going to say my vanishing point is there and then work through that, because as you can see, that just feels too sharp to me. And it's over constructed and it breaks my concentration. So okay. Here's another one. So I'm just trying to feel this out, like where it feels square to me, right? That feels like 90 degrees, right? And yes, I can go back and construct more vanishing points and try to engineer it, but I think that the knowledge is a little bit more accessible to me just in my emotions. Okay, cool. All right, now in order to study structure and not get too much in the way, then I'll kind of maybe lighten all this up. All right, now I know a couple things. I know when I'm drawing perspective how to find the midpoint, right? And that's by doing these diagonals. So I can place the midpoint, but it's pretty easy to see half, right? So then I know, that's about normally where I would locate it anyways. And then I have my little method of drawing a circle, and I'm not trying to center it around that midpoint. So that is going to be, that circle is going to be the limits of the eyes, right? But that circle is describing a sphere, right? So the sphere has to fit inside that block. Now the jaw is it's mostly in the front, but it goes around the side just a little bit. And that line has to describe the base of the nose, right? So I'm not trying to draw too much beyond a little block, right? And then also, while I'm thinking about that, it's still like, see how I render the mouth kind of graphically here? It's always worth the practice to try to think about the shape of the mouth, how it extrudes a little bit, So it's not necessarily just a line like a graphic. I'm keeping it higher. And then see the chin cannot be flat. I can't keep it flat and graphic and planar. I have to acknowledge that it, comes out and back a little bit. And then I'm looking down, looking kind of down into the side. So I can do this thing where I place the glasses. But it also helps, see, to have that line. See how I messed it up? I jumped up a little. And then the eyes, I have the distance on the eyes. There's one eye, there's the distance between them, and there's another eye. And even though, I don't really like this little dude, and then think of this curve wrapping back around here, and that kind of lets us put the ear up a little bit, right? And making the ear on the side of the head. Cool. So I've created a proportional study, like a little compound schema that lets me, and if you don't want to be fascinated by eyes, just draw them closed. That's a really good one, a really good thing to do. So I've created this little proportional schema that lets me rotate the head in space, and that will be more valuable to me than anything, right? Just like, so the sequel to this class is figure drawing. So if you're in figure drawing and you are looking at the model and the model's sitting in a chair and you're standing up, then you know that you're looking at the top of her head, right? You know that you're looking at the top of the model's head and there has to be something there. So if you kind of have this ability to sort of three-dimensionally construct these proportions schematically, that is the missing thing, right? You study anatomy by studying proportion, and then you study how anatomy fits into space, right? But if you never had done those schematic exercises, you'd just be drawing this same thing over and over. The same thing that we drew with Daniel Day-Lewis, the circle, then this shield, then the eyes, and you say, oh, that's all there is for me to know is these proportions, right? You get really good at those proportions, and then you realize, like, oh wait, I can't move anything in space. So all these things, like, so see how fast I did these drawings? Like, these are exercises that you do in your notebook, right? I mean, you're going to turn something in for this piece. But the point is, just like perspective, you can hit your sketchbook at any time and do a cool little perspective drawing, right? So at any time, another one of your practice drawings, if you're going to be serious about drawing, and I'll give you a copy of this drawing, is just schema with heads inside of them, so you can flip them over and over and practice them, right? Now everybody has their own way of doing this. You can see this kind of beautiful diamond shape. It's really classical. You can sort of tell that this was from the 1930s or something. But even if you are, so if you're intimidated by what I did, where it's a box, I'm trying to think about it. I'm trying to think about the form in 3 dimensions inside the box. But I'm not that successful with this because I'm just practicing too, just like you guys. So another way to think about it is the stage 1. Here's my intuitive vanishing point. So yeah, I'll vanish a little, right? So the stage 1 would be just something like this. Just think of, this is close to the island, that's closed, doobity-doo. And I think my intuition is telling me that I'm not actually seeing the top of the head here. Right, so just something like this. If you have a circle, the circle that encloses the face, you have a circle, and then a compound form where you attach that rectangle for the nose in the right place in the circle, right? So in the circle, there's the eyes, and then you kind of can draw the base of the nose, and then you can draw like this little shape going up like this, like just this. Just something like this, where you get the feeling like, oh, that has the proportions of a head. And then you could just shade it to show where the eyes would go. And then you could and then you can sort of carve into it a little to show where the cheekbones will go, and forget everything else, right? So if you just show these little things and practice moving them around in space, then that will become something, right? Because just like when we did this compound schema exercise and got it wrong, and got it wrong and said like, oh, this was too big. It gives you a pathway to teach yourself through sketching, right? And you can and try them here too, above the vanishing point, right, or the eye line. I think the eye line is more useful. And just simple and fast, right? The circle is going to enclose the eyes because the eyes face forward. That's going to be in the middle of the circle. And then remember, the bottom of the circle goes about to the upper lip, right? So then there's little logical things like, oh, we can see the underside of the nose, right? Oh, we can see, we're looking up and the upper lip overhangs, so we'll see more of the overhang, right? And then we'll still get those little carving out the cheekbones like Bridgman does. So we'll carve out those cheekbones, but then the chin is here, so we're looking up at the jaw, right? And then so then we'd see the jaw to the neck and see that. So even if we can't figure it out, we just have these little, a schema isn't meant to exist by itself, then you go reference and you find a, so I don't know, that kind of ended up looking like a sock puppet for me, but I have this general sense of that position that I can use, that if I saw a photo of someone looking up, then I can kind of draw through this a little bit in thumbnail and hold it in my mind for when I'm going to do that drawing, right? And say like, oh, I see the underside of the nose, I see the the upper lip a little more, and I'm going to see the underside of the chin. So I have these kind of benchmarks, so that when I see somebody, when I see like that beautiful picture of someone looking up, and I have to see their, I know that I'm going to see the underside of their chin in some way. I know that even though I don't want to draw nostrils, I know that I'm going to see the lower part of the nose, right? So I know I already have that shape kind of in mind, and I know that I'm going to see their upper lip a lot more, and it's going to appear closer to the underside of their nose, and I know that I'm going to see the lower lip sort of getting in the way of the upper lip, right? Like that. So now I'm drawing in a way that's like way more free. I also know that all this stuff is going to follow like kind of the same axis. So I'm seeing like a tilted axis here. But the nose is going to sweep back, and in the eyes, I'm going to see kind of the underside of the eyes. So if they were looking up, you see the lower eyelid a little more. Those distances are still the same, right? There's one eye, but the nose is in the way, right? So there's 1 unit of distance, one eye, 1 unit of distance, and then here's the other eye. And then I have a really beautiful sense of this. And then this space too, if someone is tilted up, like I'm looking up at them, then the eyebrow is going to be closer to the eye than it would be normally. See, so even this, I have, like, I'm just practicing the cheekbones. Remember, I still have that same concept of the little glasses or the superhero mask and that little diagonal that connects the nose to the eyes, but it's now all like kind of more functional for me, so I know exactly where the cheekbones go as well, right? Cool. So even though I'm not really that good at this, I'm always practicing, and I'm using the schema so that if I see this picture, if I see like on Instagram or something, like someone from below, and then someone takes like this really beautiful serene picture, I know everything that goes into it, right? I already have a plan I'll plan for it schematically, and I already have the proportions memorized. So that's, I mean, so see, this is pretty good for just imagining something. And then if I do take the time to work from reference, it'll just be that much better, right? But what I'm doing is sort of building up my dictionary, right? So I have this knowledge. So we've been studying proportion. I have that, and then I'm always trying to add a three-dimensional drawing into my study of proportion, right? And I use those things together, and they're just super powerful, even for like these little 5-second drawings, right? So yeah, oh my gosh, that drawing looks great, right? So if you sort of take everything from this lesson and say, I got to look at proportion, I have to, study proportion flat, and, repeat this shape over and over maybe, and then I have to somehow match that with three-dimensional schema in whatever way that you want. Then when you have those things together, then you'll be able to, to almost draw anything, especially if you have a photo reference. Like, I have the proportion and the schema in my mind, and if I saw a picture of someone in this exact pose, then it would be really easy for me. And I'd basically be ready, really ready for this drawing, right? Cool. So, all right, so this is slightly vague, but so it's 3D schema, just like the other one, just like the other drawing. And your schema should relate to a head, should relate to a head. In this, I think, even though I'm drawing mostly in pencil, you should finish everything in pen just because you're still building your proficiency with those materials, right? But this assignment is open. Like, show me these blocks and show me whatever level you want to be at, right? If you are drawing this like little invisible cage, and then you're drawing this really complex head inside of it, that's fine. But if everything that you're doing is just a little block form, that's fine. Another solution for this assignment is just to copy these 2 pages as best you can, and you'll learn something from that. I think this is published in the early 30s, and it's the commanding reference book. I mean, there's better books for anatomy, but there are not better books for learning to draw the figure as an artist needs to, because it gives you those kind of usable tools that you need at your fingerprints, in your fingertips to study. So I'll give you all these images, but those are your 2 assignments: 3D schema that relate to a head, and the other one is a proportion studies followed by a portrait from a reference photo. All right, that's it.